One of WARDCAM's little known features is its ability to wrap a shape around a pipe, so that if you ever need to do something like this, cut tensile test parts out of a tube, you can basically create the shape in WARDCAM or take in the DXF file, tell it the diameter of the tube, where you want to set your 0 point, and then the orientation of the tube on the machine. Then WARDCAM will wrap that shape around the tube, and then you'll see the Z position will move as the cutting head is going around the pipe. One thing to note is we're not actually tilting the cutting head. This would be typically a situation where the cutting head is going to stay vertical, but we do want to have some Z-axis motion so we can keep the nozzle as close as possible to the tube for best part quality. So this video I'll walk through how we would program that in WARDCAM. In WARDCAM, you can of course bring in the DXF file of your dog bone shape. We have recently added in the shape library a dog bone. So I'm going to click on this and we'll just go full screen here. So this little window here on the side can be resized if you need to see all the text that's over here. So basically you've got parameters here that you can adjust. So width of the reduced section is going to be this distance here. Width of the wide section would be the width here to here. Length of the reduced section is from this point here to this point here. And then you've got radius there, and then clamping area is this distance from here over to here, and then it tells you what the overall length of the part is. So of course if you want to change anything, you can just click into one of these fields and do that. So if we want to change the width of our wide section, type that in. You can also use the sliders if you want to do it that way. There are some mins and max set up on this, so with the slider you can adjust it between the min and max values. Once you've got it the way you like it, you can click on the check button, brings it into WARDCAM here, and then we hit our next button. So generally what we're going to do is, if you do this on any sort of basis, is set up a separate machine and call it a tube or pipe machine, and we're going to keep that separate from our regular 2D machine so that somebody doesn't accidentally take a part which should be a flat part and project it onto a pipe, which would then result in having Z-axis motion in the program and more than likely crashing the nozzle into your sheet. So what I'm going to do first of all here is go up into our machine database and create a new machine and hopefully avoid that scenario. So I'm going to take my 2D machine that I have here, 1440, and down here at the bottom I'll click on Add Machine. So that makes this new AWJ 2D machine here, and I'm going to rename this, and I'm going to call it AWJ. I could call it 3D since we're going to have some Z motion in there. Again, we're not doing it as a 5-axis machine, just simply X, Y, and then Z motion, and then call it 2. And then what I'm going to do is I'll copy materials from one of my machines, copy it from the 2D 1440 machine, so that copies over the material database. And then the key thing here is we're going to create a new post variable file. This variables file has the parameter that tells us whether we're going to be projecting this onto a pipe or not. So what I'll do here is I'll go into choose file, and I'm going to navigate to this location here and find this file and then make a new copy of it and rename it and stick tube or something in the name so that I can have a separate file there. So click on choose file. So I'm at, in this case, C, program data, Waterjet, WARDCAM, scripts, posts, Waterjet X series, and then this variables file is the one that I'm currently looking at. So I'm going to just make a copy of this, and then I'm going to paste it. So here's my new one that I just copied, and then I'm going to rename this. And I'm going to call it variables dash tube. So now I want to make sure that I click on that to select it, and we come back here. Now we see post variables is the variables dash tube file now. So we'll go ahead and click on save and exit, and then come out here and actually select that new machine that we've made. And now I'll pick my material and thickness that I'm going to cut this out of. Hit our next button and add my toolpath. Generally, if you're going to be cutting this out of pipe, you're going to want to set your lead in, lead out position. That would be the apex of the pipe, so somewhere around the midpoint of this edge here, more than likely. And then usually in this application, people want to cut this area in here super smooth, and then they don't care about the clamping area. So we'll use our partial qualities command to change that. So I'll go to smoothest, and I'll left click here, and then left click here to lock that in. Left click, and left click, and then go to my fastest, and left click, and left click, left click, left click, left click, left click. So there's our toolpath, and then we hit our next button. Important thing on this step is to remember to move your 0, point, which right now in my situation is set at the lower left hand corner of the part. I want to set this at the apex of the pipe, or the midpoint of this line here. So over here on the right, I can turn off my various snaps if I just want to leave on my midpoint snap. And then let me try to zoom in here. As I get close to the midpoint of this line, there'll be a little blue triangle that's going to show up that's showing me that I'm at the midpoint. So right there, you can see that, barely see that little blue triangle that's there. So basically just left click and moves the 0 point to that location. So at the beginning of the program, set our nozzle at the top of the pipe, and they'll just do a short little rapid over to here, pierce, and go around here. Now we haven't yet told WARDCAM that we want to project this onto a pipe, so if I were to create the CNC file now, we would see that we don't have any Z-axis motion in here. So we'll just close these other ones here and come back. So to actually tell it you want to go on to a pipe, if you go up into the options area, and you want to make sure that you have your, if this is the first time you're doing it, you want to have your scroll lock key turned on. So right now my scroll lock key is turned on. If I don't have my scroll lock key turned on, and I come up into options and edit variables, you won't see any selection for pipe up here. So if I do go ahead and turn on my scroll lock key, and I go up into options, edit variables, then I will see a tab for pipes. And then if I want to be able to see all these fields related to the pipes tab when I don't have my scroll lock key turned on, I can just go ahead over here on the right and click on these, and then whether my scroll lock key is on or off, I'll be able to see these fields here. So let me just save that for right now and just go and turn my scroll lock key off. And now the pipes tab is here. So breakup distance, that's basically the distance, the line segments that WARDCAM is going to break lines up into when it is going around the pipe. And you got your diameter of your nozzle, pipe diameter. So if I'm going to project this onto a 4.5 inch diameter pipe, type that in there. And then project about X is whether the X coordinates are going to be wrapped around the pipe. So a rough sketch. If this is going to be my awesome dog bone here, and I'm going to put it in this orientation on the table, and this is regardless of whether you have one of our older machines where we had the X and Y rotated. So older machines, this was our X and this was our Y. And then, of course, past couple of years, we've switched to a more traditional XY system on the machine, where this is X and this is Y. So in WARDCAM, it's only thinking about the traditional XY orientation, like on the left here. So if you are going to have your pipe like this on the table, if you check the field there that was wrap around X, in this situation here, that would be correct, because anytime that we're moving in the left to right or X direction, we don't want to have any Z-axis motion, and we only want to have the Z-axis motion when we're moving in Y. So if we are having the pipe going left to right on the machine, we leave this not turned on, and that's, again, whether it's the new or old style coordinate system on the machine. And then whether you want to project it onto the pipe or not, so we'll go ahead and project it and save and exit. And now we'll go ahead and click on CNC. So now we'll see that we have these Z motions in here. So we've got the initial lead in, and then as the Y coordinates start to change, then we see that we've got Z. So any line of code where there's a change in the Y coordinate here, we see there's a change in Z. So here the Y is not changing, and then as we go into the dog bone shape, the narrow part of the dog bone shape, it starts to change again here. And then as we come out of that shape, it changes again. And then as we go around one end of the dog bone, and then the other narrow section, and then the end of the program. So that's how that works as far as the programming of the dog bone. The other portion of this is more than likely setting up some sort of fixture on the machine that you can set the pipe into, so you have it in a accurate location. A little hard to see in this picture here, but in the background we have this. We had cut a slot out of a piece of plastic and set the pipe down into that, and then we've got basically the same start point for the slot that we cut as the dog bone that we're going to be cutting, so that those 2 points would coincide and be centered on the top of the pipe. So to do that, what we would do is, in your CAD system of choice, you can draw a diameter of circle the diameter of your pipe. So in this case, we'll switch into diameter mode. It's going to be 4.5 inch diameter pipe. And then what I'll do is I'll draw a rectangle that is the basically the thickness of the fixture material, and then whatever random width here that I want to make this. I'm going to make this 8 by quarter, so I'll be cutting this out of a piece of 1/4 inch something, which looks like that's not quite right. Must have not had my relative button turned on. So I'll use my rectangle command and click down here, and I'm going to make it 8 by 1/4. So I'll be cutting this out of a piece of 1/4 inch material. And then I'm going to take this, I'm going to move this, I'll just move it from the midpoint of here to quadrant of here. And then I'm going to move it actually down a little bit so that the pipe isn't setting directly on the grates. So I'll just use my move command again and move it down about 1/8 of an inch or so. And then what I can do is take a measurement from here to here, and I'm going to make another rectangle that is this width and then slightly longer than the pipe. So let me just check, see what my dimensions setting are right now. Alright, so we'll take a dimension from intersection here to intersection here, so at 1.479. So I'm just going to draw a rectangle. So if my pipe was going to be 12 inches long, then I might make this slot 13 inches long, just to give me a little bit of room to work with there. So 13 by 1.479. Just make sure I did that right. So that's good. And I'll just move this down, make it a little bit easier to work with, and then I'll draw some sort of shape around the outside here. Whether I need to actually cut this or not depends on whether I'm cutting this out of a piece of scrap or something, or so I'm just going to program, and when I'm in WARDCAM, I'm just going to program the inside cut, but of course you could also program the outside cut if you needed to. So now that we've got that, we can just go ahead and bring this into WARDCAM, and we'll set our 0, point at the midpoint of the same edge that we set on the actual part. So now I'll go back to WARDCAM. So hit our next button. Now important this step would be to remember to go back to one of our 2D machines. So we'll switch back to our 2D machine because we wouldn't want to project this onto a pipe, because then when we went to cut it, we'd have that Z motion in there, which would cause some issues. And then choose the material that you're going to cut this out of. So I'm just going to cut that out of some 1/4 inch aluminum. And then I'm going to put that on there, and then if I need to cut the outside, I'll add that toolpath. If I don't need to cut the outside, I'll just leave it like this. And we hit our next button, and then similar to what we did on the actual part, I'm going to turn off these snap points so that just my midpoint is selected, and then very carefully try to select that midpoint of this edge here. So I'll put this piece of material up, move over to where I want this slot cut out of that, and then I'll save my start point there, cut this out, and then I'll remove the slug, and then I'll jog up in Z, put the pipe in, clamp the pipe down, disable my Z motion in my saved point, and then move back over to that saved point, and then jog down in Z to my cutting height, and that'll be my new start point, or the save point, and that'll coincide with the same 0, point that I had on the pipe here. So then I would just go ahead and create this file. And of course in this one now we see we don't have an easy axis motion, so that's good. So that's how you can program a part to be wrapped around a tube. If you have any questions on that, let us know. Thanks.